Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Orange and Brown Talk podcast, our Browns-Bills preview edition here. Dan Labbe with Kay Cabot, Ashley Bastock. Full preview pod coming your way. So Lance Reisland will give us his scouting report on the Bills. That's coming up in the next segment. We will come back and make our picks at the very end of the podcast. But as we do every week, we're going to set this football game up as best we can. The Browns are 10.5-point underdogs. We're back to that again. Set this game up as best we can with some storylines or what we're watching, what's on our mind as this game gets going. So, Mary Kay, Browns, Bills, Huntington Bank Field. What have you got for a storyline this week?
Well, I know I keep going to the Shedeur Sanders but he really has to rebound from his 3-interception game. He's really got to do that. He's down to 3 chances, just 3 more chances to prove to the Cleveland Browns that they don't need to go out and draft themselves a first-round quarterback next year or in April. He's got to do a much better job than he did last week when he was off on a number of his throws. He did not have that good ball placement that we're used to seeing. He did not have the accuracy. He did not have the decision making that he needs to have to prove to them that he can hit the ground running at the beginning of next year. So he's got to really get this turned around very quickly on Sunday and do some things differently than he did during that game when, of course, he had 3 interceptions. One of them was not his fault, the one that was snatched out of Jerry Jeudy's hands. But he's going to be playing against the number 2 pass defense in the NFL. And so this is not going to be easy. It's a veteran back end. They've got guys back there that are going to know how to mix things up, disguise some coverages, change things up on him. They've got, as we have been talking about, Sean McDermott, who is a longtime, obviously, veteran head coach and former defensive back. So they're going to have some tricks up their sleeve, some looks up their sleeve for Shedeur Sanders. He's going to have to be on point against this team if he wants to show the Cleveland Browns that he keeps progressing towards being the guy.
Yeah, I noticed this. I looked this up before we came on here. I was looking at some guys on Buffalo's defense. Joey Bosa, of course, is over there now, and he leads the league in forced fumbles. And we know that has been an issue with Shedeur Sanders. He's put the ball on the ground. He got rescued from one in Chicago. There's going to be some pressure coming at him. They're going to try to get that ball out, especially if he's a little loose with the football in the pocket. Once again. So, Ashley, I think one of the themes from Tommy Rees, from Shedeur Sanders, was this idea of taking completions, just the easy completions. And that's something that, Dylan Gabriel used to talk about. We hear quarterbacks talk about taking the completions that are there. You would hope that as an offensive coordinator and play caller, maybe you can scheme some guys open and give a guy some easy sort of, hey, throw it to this guy. He's right there. They love Shedeur's explosiveness. They love that ability to get the ball downfield and that accuracy. That's something else Tommy said. But it really does feel like the next step for him is going to be, can you consistently take the stuff that's right there and be willing to sort of just take some easy completions and get back to being more of that guy that you were in Colorado, where you were completing 70% plus of your passes.
And these guys, like, to your point about them making quarterbacks uncomfortable, they have 12 forced fumbles as a team. Joey Bosa, who you mentioned, has 5 of those. He also has 5 sacks. And as a team, they have 31 sacks and they have 73 quarterback hits. So they, I'm sure, are going to be testing him with that pressure and trying to get the football out. And yeah, it felt like today really a theme with Tommy Rees was about Shedeur, like, going through these checkdowns, right? And I know that's something Lance Reisland always likes to talk about too, like going through your reads and taking what's there. If the easier play is there, you want to take it. And especially if it's the difference between a turnover and not. So again, these are all things that you talk about rookie quarterbacks. I think every rookie quarterback is going to struggle with that to some degree. And it's about building those blocks. And to Mary Kay's larger point with this storyline, like, can he bounce back? I mean, that is an important trait in and of itself.
Yeah, and I think some of it too, Mary Kay. I mean, it's been such a theme, this week, but really the whole time since he's taken over, is that chemistry and that comfortability with his receiving core. And you've kind of been on this all week, this idea of him maybe leaning on Harold Fannin a little bit too much. He was targeted 14 times on Sunday, but he certainly has that. He certainly sees him as that that security blanket, which is what a tight end is supposed to be. But it's kind of on, like Jerry Judy has to be more reliable, right? And they've got to get on the same page on some of that quick stuff. Isaiah Bond has been a good downfield target for him, but Isaiah Bond needs to be making himself available maybe a little better as one of those safety blankets as well. Said Tillman played 7 snaps on Sunday. I do think he's a guy that he's a big body that I think Shedeur could be able to find in some of those situations. Of course, David Njoku hasn't been out there. His season hasn't been maybe what he wants it to be, but down in the red zone, we have seen that he can still be a threat. So it's not all on Shedeur. It's also on, these receivers have to kind of understand his timing, understand what he's looking at, and they've got to make sure that they're making themselves available for him as well, so that when he needs to check down to one of them or he needs one of them to be that security blanket, they're there and they're ready.
Absolutely 100%. And he talks all the time about trust. I have to trust what I'm seeing. When I trust what I'm seeing, I, hit that back foot and I let it rip. And I don't think that he really, truly, deeply trusts enough of what he's seeing out there. I think he does trust Harold. I think he's got a comfort level with throwing the ball to Harold, but he can't keep going to that well because defenses are onto it and they're going to get there first and they're going to pick it off like they did 2 times, like the Bears did twice. And again, this is a savvy veteran defense, and they're going to catch on to that obviously too quickly. They're going to know that that's where he's going with the ball, and they're going to jump that route, and they're going to, they're going to watch where his eyes are looking. And so unless he can get spreading the ball around more, it can be long afternoons for him. Now, in this particular game, I think it will help him that they should be able to run the ball. This is the 30th ranked run defense. And if he can be supported with a robust running game and with a lot more run than they were able to do against the Bears, I think that's really going to help open things up in the passing game for him. So he's going to have to hope that that is the case. And I think it will be the case as long as the Browns do a little bit of a better job with their makeshift offensive line. We know they're struggling with their offensive line, and they've got to overcome some of those issues there. But that should help. And then as far as Said Tillman coming back is concerned, I don't know. I just don't know if there are going to be enough targets for Said yet. Because I don't know if Shedeur has enough of a comfort level with him to just start slinging the ball to Said Tillman. I don't know if he feels that way yet. And I don't think he's going to go where he's not comfortable and where he's not sure. And I think sometimes that's why we see him not looking to the open man, because he just doesn't feel good about it. Now, Tommy said today he trusts everybody that's out there, and I'm sure he does to a certain degree, but you're always going to have your comfort level with certain people. And right now he's got Harold Fannin wherever, and he's got Isaiah Bond on the deep ball. And that's his 2-trick pony right now. And he needs to diversify that to make sure that they're not just keying in on the 2 things that he's going to do most of the time.
All right, Ashley, give us a storyline here for Sunday when the Browns and Bills play.
Well, again, I think we're just going back to the well of the usual storylines for this game. But again, it's going to be a storyline until it's not. I think I brought this up in the preview pod laying out the week on Tuesday, but Myles Garrett and this sack record. And again, it's been the talk of the week again so far among his teammates, among the coaches. Really, the Bills, as you're looking at their interviews, Myles and this sack record are really the only thing Browns related that they are being asked about, which makes sense because the Browns are 3-11 and the Bills are 10-4 and in the middle of a playoff push and a division race. But, I thought it was interesting that Jim Schwartz today kind of affirmed something that we've said in talking about this, that basically when Myles got within 5 of the 22.5 record, for them even, it started to become well, is it going to be this week type thing, which we talked about a few weeks ago against the Titans. Like, yeah, it's crazy to just sit here and think, oh, Myles could get 4 sacks in this single game, but we knew it was possible because he's had a game with 5 sacks this year and a game with 4 sacks this year. So I think it's really going to be all about how the Bills scheme things up for him, right? And are they going to take the New England approach of letting him get a bunch of one-on-one opportunities and they know he's going to get to Josh Allen and whatever? But it's interesting because we know, and Mary Kay brought this up on Tuesday, if he doesn't get it this week, and he needs 1.5 to break that record. If he doesn't get it this week, next week it's the Steelers and Aaron Rodgers coming to town. And Aaron Rodgers quick gamed the you-know-what out of this team the first time the Browns played the Steelers, and Myles Garrett still has yet to sack him in his career because obviously they haven't faced each other a ton. So that will be a tough ask next week too, and then you're already on the last game of the season. So I'm really curious to see if this will just be put to bed this week.
I mean, I really hope so. I think everyone kind of hopes so that we can actually move forward from, hey, is it going to happen to, hey, it happened. And then just sort of, move past that even. So I think everybody's kind of in that same boat. But one of the things I'm very interested to see, Mary Kay, is, I thought the reason we thought that he could get it against the Titans is because obviously that team had given up a ton of sacks. Cam Ward will hold on to the football, give you opportunities. But I thought Cam Ward did a great job of getting rid of the ball. I thought Caleb Williams, same kind of deal. I thought he did a pretty good job of getting rid of the football. Now, obviously, Myles got 1.5 against him. But, it's almost like the 49ers reminded everybody, like, hey, get the ball out quickly when you're playing this guy. And what I'm really interested to see is Josh Allen, obviously a guy who is going to hold the ball, going to use his legs. Sometimes is going to try to do too much. Like he'll still do that to his own detriment every now and again. I'm just wondering, he has gotten so smart. This is why he's maybe the best quarterback in the NFL right now. His brain has caught up to his athleticism. I wonder if just he's been driving it home in his own mind all week. I'm getting that football out quickly because he's good enough that he can just get rid of the ball quickly. He doesn't have to hold the ball and try to make plays. So I wonder how difficult he's going to make it on Myles this week.
Well, it's the great X factor and the great question about this game. Are they going to focus on that and worry about that? Or are they not going to really worry about that much and just go out there and have a game plan to win the game? And if he gets the record, he gets the record, and they're not going to worry about it that much. But the thing that they can do so incredibly well is run the football. And as Jim Schwartz said today, you can't get a sack on a running play. And so if they really, really focus on the run, they can neutralize Myles Garrett. And that's happened on a number of occasions. So the formula is, if you don't want him to completely wreck the game, you have to run the ball a lot and you have to quick game and get that ball out very, very quickly. In addition to double teaming him and chipping him with tight ends and running backs, whatever. So there is a formula that will not necessarily allow him to wreck the game. And it's just a matter of how much do they want to focus on that and how important is it to them to not let him get the record. And, like in New England, it just wasn't that important to them to not let Myles wreck the game. Like they just let him go one-on-one a lot, which people don't usually do. But they did, which is why he's here about to set this record, because he got 5 sacks in one game and he made up for a barren stretch of a half a sack over 4 games. So there's really 2 games that have made his season, the Patriots and the Ravens. 9 sacks in those 2 games, 9 sacks in those 2 games. And again, you have to count them, and they are a big, huge part of this sack journey this year. But it's almost like Jim Schwartz talking about 2 big runs, right? Two big touchdown runs. Well, Myles had 2 big sack games that are leading him to the promised land this year. And if a team doesn't want to let that happen, they don't have to let that happen.
Yeah, it's always been kind of that game plan. Yeah, obviously throw resources at him and also get the ball out quick. And I think Josh is smart enough that if that's what he chooses to do, he'll be able to get that ball out of there pretty quickly. So I'll talk about the run game. It's been another theme of this week. The Browns have struggled to get the run game going. Now people are starting to make that comparison between what Quinshon Judkins has done this year and what Travion Henderson is doing in New England. He's started to come on. Of course, he wasn't really even playing much early in the season, and now we're seeing him start to get a little momentum going for the Patriots. I don't think it has to be an either or with these guys. I liked both of them coming out of Ohio State. I preferred Travion Henderson, but I really liked Quinshon Judkins, so I didn't mind that pick. I think this pick is going to be fine ultimately. But Ashley, it has been a real challenge for this team to run the football lately. And I have it pulled up right now on Next Gen Stats. Quinshon Judkins has faced 8 or more men in the box 45.95% of the time this season. Next up on that list is Chris Rodriguez from Washington, 38.27%. Derrick Henry, 38.2%. Quinshon Judkins is just far and away the guy who's facing the most stacked boxes of anyone in the league. And you're just sensing it when you watch him run the football. He's just not able to find any room. And we have seen he's got some big playability. He's got some ability when he gets to that second level, but it just hasn't been there for him. And I don't know. Mary Kay mentioned it. This is a bad run defense, but we've also seen them go against some bad run defenses that stack the box and they can't run against us. So I want to see if they can figure out a way to get this thing going against a team they should be able to run the football against.
Yeah, to your point, I mean, the Dolphins were at the time, I don't know if they still are, the worst run defense in the NFL when the Browns played them. And I remember talking about at the time, like the Browns did okay. Quinshon Judkins didn't even eclipse 100 yards in that game because they were able to focus in on him. I think the problem exists for many reasons, but early in the season, there was just no downfield ability. Now, Shedeur Sanders has opened that up a little bit with especially his connection with Isaiah Bond, but it still isn't consistent enough. I mean, Isaiah Bond got I think 4 targets against the Bears on Sunday, caught those 2 really nice passes, but that was it in that realm. So I think that hasn't helped things. It made this offense very predictable, very one-dimensional, allowed teams to focus in. And now it also hasn't helped that the Browns are they're not playing with many leads. And when you're not playing with a lead and the game wears on, it's basically impossible to run at that point. And the reverse side of that with the Browns' own run defense, I think it's struggled because teams are running against them more because they have leads. So it's like different sides of the same coin to me, those numbers and why that's happening. But I think it's undeniable that the circumstances of the losing and not really having consistent downfield threats, that consistent downfield trust and connection has definitely played a factor in impacting the other part of the offense.
Yeah, and Mary Kay, obviously that's an area where I think this goes back to your offensive line as well. You're running guys out there who, you're really getting into your depth on your offensive line at this point. Maybe Tevin Jenkins will be back. Maybe Wyatt Teller will be back. One of those 2 guys would start at right guard. I actually think that it would probably be Tevin based on what we saw a few weeks ago when they were rotating those guys. But hopefully having one of those 2 guys on the field would help you. And the other part too is I feel like it almost feels like even the screen game is off just a little. They hit that big screen to Quinshon. I think it was the Titans game, like that 58-yarder. But it also feels like sometimes they're calling these screens and even the timing on the screen game is off. So they can't even effectively replace the run game with the screen game. And I just think it's causing all sorts of problems. And, Quinshon went after somebody on social media this week. And I don't think people should be looking at Quinshon Judkins and saying this is his fault, because I don't think it's his fault. I think we've seen evidence this season. He's a pretty good running back, but right now, there's just times when he doesn't even have a chance.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And again, when you're falling behind, you're not going to be running the ball. When you can't convert third downs, people aren't going to get their chances. When you're just not running that many plays and you don't have the time of possession, there aren't going to be that many opportunities for you. And then it's difficult to get into a rhythm. It's difficult to get into the flow of the game as a running back when it's choppy like that and you're going 3 and out and 3 and out and 3 and out. It's just you can't really get ahead of steam. And I think that's what's been happening with him. They had a lot of short drives against the Bears, and it's been like that a fair amount. So that's what they need to do. They need to be able to really work on their third down package so that they can keep it going, and they need to try to get ahead if they can and start a little bit faster. So we'll see if they can maybe hit some of those explosives early in this game. Again, they're going against a second-ranked pass defense, so that's not going to be easy. But if you can somehow either just stay with another team or get ahead, then you can keep your running game going. And then people will get to see what Quinshon Judkins is really all about. I asked Joel about this today with Tonio, and he said, he is the runner that he was in the beginning of the season when he was kind of tearing it up. And things have just kind of changed since then, and offensive line woes and whatnot. So I think this should be a get right game for Quinshon against the 30th ranked run defense.
It also felt like there were a few times in Chicago. Now, look, they didn't get a first down in the first half until that big throw to Isaiah Bond. So it was hard against the Bears, especially early in that game. But it felt like there were times when it would go, Shedeur Sanders would get a pass play downfield for a first down, and then we're going to turn around and just run the ball. It felt like they weren't being real creative in when they were running or how they were running. And again, maybe that comes down to the offensive line and all of that. But I just think it's a collective issue where it's the play call, the O-line, maybe Quinshon's missing some stuff out there. I don't know, but they've got to get this figured out. To the points you guys made, they're never playing with a lead, so they can't run the ball. It's tough. All right, we're going to take a break here on the Orange and Brown Talk preview edition of the podcast. When we come back, Lance Reisland will give us his scouting report, and then we'll come back at the very end, and we will make our picks for Sunday's game. Welcome back to the Orange and Brown Talk podcast, our Browns Bills preview, and we welcome on, as we do every week, Lance Reisland to scout the Buffalo Bills. Lance, how are you?
I'm doing very well, Dan. How are you tonight, buddy?
Doing well. Okay, Josh Allen. Let's start there. Got to start any Bills discussion with Josh Allen. One of the most fascinating careers in the NFL. Obviously, one of the most fascinating draft prospects. We go all the way back to 2018 and sort of where he's come from there. Where is Josh Allen at right now? And is this the peak of Josh Allen's powers, what we're seeing right now?
I think he's the best quarterback in the league right now. I think the combination of, I think he's the best pocket guy. He can throw on every launch point. You can run the plus run power run game with him. You can run the speed zone read, game with him. He's extremely accurate. He doesn't have a super offense with him. And he's, we haven't got to say this a lot, but this is the quarterback you win because of. And when you watch the film, Cook is really good. Shakir has been really solid. The tight ends, Knox, Kincaid, they're really solid. But make no mistake, those guys are just all solid. This is a Josh Allen team and a Josh Allen quarterback that he's, like I said, I think he's the best quarterback in the league. For me, it's always him and Lamar. Once Josh learned how to, get cleaned up in the pocket and Lamar threw from pocket, they're both on a different level to me, obviously with Patrick Mahomes too. But the ability to run, I'm not sure what the Browns are going to do defensively. He poses such a problem right now. They're going to be a tough out. He's playing at a really high level right now. That comeback last week was really impressive.
So we know what Josh can do with his legs. And, one of the things about him is how he's developed mentally, right? And his ability to play the game, like you mentioned, from the pocket. And this is someone who likes to create plays, can hold the football, but I feel like he's smart enough to understand I got to get the ball out quick. That's how I'm going to avoid being the guy that's on that highlight reel forever when Myles Garrett breaks the sack record. Do you think that's how Josh will approach this football game?
Absolutely. And just like the Texans, the Browns can create pressure with 4. And that's, obviously there's been a game plan, throw the screens behind him, run away from him, and what teams are starting to do now too, is they're starting to run right at him. And this Bills pass protection is not great, but they marry the run with the pass. And these guys are road graders. Deion Dawkins, these guys up front, they can get off the ball. So they're going to have a plan for him. And one of the plans that people are doing now is kind of running at him. But yeah, Josh Allen Myles Garrett is playing at such a high level. First of all, they're going to chip him all day. They're going to make sure they chip him. They're going to change the launch point. They're not going to allow Myles Garrett to beat them. And that's kind of what's happening the last couple of weeks. And with the loss of Malik Collins, that's kind of what's happened, is that you can go back to that. All right, how do we stop the one-man show? You chip them, run away, you do a bunch of different stuff. You weren't able to do that with the Browns early in the season because they had 3 guys up front besides Myles that were really getting after it. So, yeah, I think he'll get rid of the ball. And that's the thing, too, is that you can go plus run game, plus 1 run game, run right at him, get some big boys in there. They'll go unbalanced with 13 personnel and make him play the run. They'll go unbalanced with they'll have 6 offensive linemen. Their offense, and I put this in my notes that I sent you earlier today. Their offense it kind of reminds me with Kincaid and Knox and the run game with Cook. It kind of reminds me a little bit of when the Browns. Now, obviously, Baker doesn't run as well as Allen, but that kind of play action, they lean on the run. They run the ball 49% of the time. This is a run football team first. He makes the big plays, but that's what he's going to do. They're going to lean on him, and they're going to lean, and then they're going to do screens behind him, but they're not going to let him win the game for the Browns defense. No way.
So you mentioned you did mention that when you mentioned the Texans there, they sacked Josh Allen 8 times a few weeks ago on that Thursday night game. So if you're looking for a template, maybe there's one there. But let's talk about this run game because you mentioned James Cook. Nobody really talks about James Cook. You know, part of that he's playing in Buffalo, right? Josh Allen gets all the headlines, all of that stuff, but nobody really talks about how good James Cook is. So you mentioned it, they're a run team. How huge of a part of that is James Cook?
Well, he's got 1,415 yards rushing, and he's averaging over 5 yards per rush. Now, the thing I try to chart all their runs. So their runs, they run power, counter, pin and pull. They've run gap schemes. They've run tons of duos. They've used 13, 12, 11. 12 is the majority with Knoxon and Kincaid. That's their base set. That's what they really like to do because Knox can work like a slot as well. So they love that 12 personnel, kind of what you thought the Browns were going to do. This is what they're doing. And he's outstanding. Now, his ability to jump cut is as good as I've seen in a long time. He stops and starts very, very well. He runs a lot bigger than his size. When you have 1,400 yards rushing, that's pretty impressive. So you have Josh Allen, who's, second rushing on their team. It all runs through Josh Allen, but to say that obviously Josh Allen is the gold standard for that team. But Cook, I don't know if they could do the things they could without Cook. He catches the ball out of the backfield. He's a 3-down back. He pass protects very well. He's very selfless. They don't have to take him down. They don't take him out. So it's not like the red zone guy. He's everything. It allows them to stay in their base sets when they're coming out in the red zone, middle of the field. He's been outstanding. And like I said, he does all the things that we talk about. But if you say, for me, what's his best trait? His ability to stop, start, and jump cut are just incredible.
So let's talk about their weapons outside of Cook. Obviously, like you mentioned, maybe not some huge number 1 receiver anymore. It seems like they rely pretty heavily on their tight ends as well. Who are the guys? I mean, is this passing game kind of driven by the tight ends in a lot of ways?
Yeah, those are the 2 go-to guys. So those are guys who's, if you think about the Browns with Fannin and Njoku, if Njoku wasn't hurt all year, but that's kind of what this play action scheme levels concept the Browns run, where you got the guys in the flat, second level, third level. They run a ton of that, ton of options over the middle of the field, ton of those high lows that the Browns will run, where they'll run somebody on the low, then one of those tight ends will be in that dig behind it that we see the Browns run all the time. I think Shakir is a really good player, receiver. Keon Coleman gives them a red zone threat. Now, they don't use him a ton in there, but he's a long body, and I think he's a guy that can make plays. So, yeah, everything runs through those tight ends, and then Shakir is kind of their sudden, twitchy guy. Coleman's their 50-50 guy. They love to use the backside of the backfield. But once again, they're all open, but it's all based on Josh Allen because one of the things that happens when you look back at the Texans game, which is what I watched, is they want to get 5 guys out. They want to create the clearest picture they can for Josh Allen. I just don't think they're going to be able to get 5 out because as good as the Texans are and as good as their defensive rusher, they don't have anybody like Myles Garrett. No one does right now. So you have to help a little bit on Myles Garrett because what they do is they assume Josh is going to make most guys miss. He's bigger than most, a lot of defensive ends in the league. So that won't work this week. So they're not going to get 5 out. But yeah, Shakir's a playmaker. I think Keon Coleman's pretty good. He just doesn't produce numbers. But everything runs through Knox and Kincaid for sure.
So let's talk about that Bills defense. Struggle against the run, very good against the pass. Of course, they have a Bosa. Joey Bosa is there now. And interestingly, something to maybe circle, he leads the league with 5 forced fumbles. And that is an area where Shedeur Sanders has been vulnerable. He got bailed out on one on Sunday, a strip sack that got called off because they said he was in the grasp. So that's something to keep an eye on. But what is this team good at defensively?
Well, as we talked earlier, I wrote this down. You got Rousseau, Walker, Jones, and Bosa up front to start. Then they rotate in, and they got Epinesa, who I have always liked. They got Larry Okunjobi, Browns of old Browns liar back in the day. You got Jordan Phillips and Javon Solomon. So what they do is they have 8 guys. So none of those guys are A's, but they're all B pluses. So they're running 8 B pluses at you consistently all game. They're always fresh. That's worrisome for the Browns. Now the guy that makes them run is Milano inside. He's very much, if you like Schletzinger's play, he gives you the same thing. He blitzes for different spots. He can set the edge. He plays defensive end at times in their fronts. He plays middle linebacker. He covers in zone. He covers in man. He covers backs. He covers slots. He covers running backs. He blitzes well from A through D gap. So he's very much similar to Schletzinger. He's the guy that makes them go. And Tre'Davious White is a pretty good corner. He's a guy that I think the Browns should stay away from. But I still think that the weakness of this defense is those linebackers in coverage outside of Milano. They do not cover very well inside at all between the numbers, except for Milano. So Milano will probably go with Fannin when they're man coverage, but then who's covering the back out? Who's covering the slot? I think this could be a huge week in the pass game for Junkins. And once again, we'll get to next, something we haven't talked about. As worried as I was about special teams a few weeks back, I am more worried this week than I ever have been about special teams.
Well, let's get to it. Tell me why you're so worried.
Ray Davis and kick return. So I think the most dangerous kick returners are guys who get vertical quick before they make any moves, and there's no one in the league. Now, DK did it really nice for the Titans, and he had a couple big returns. They gave up a couple big returns. If they do what they did last week, Ray Davis will take one to the house. So if you get a text from me because he takes one to the house, I will be so frustrated because this is the guy they have to kick away from. They cannot let Ray Davis touch the ball. You don't want to give him a shot and go, oh yeah, then we're going to kick it away from him. No, you got to kick away from him right now. And Shakir is a really good punt returner. And the thing that the Browns have struggled with, we caught like the first 10. You got to crowd these guys. You can't let them get vertical for 10 because then they have the whole field. They have two-way goes. He's so good at getting vertical right when he catches it. So very, very worrisome. So 2 weeks ago, I was worried about punt protection. This week, this is not rocket science because the Browns have really struggled with kick return, but this is the style of kick return. It's the immediate vertical press. This is not a guy where he's looking to make moves or he's going to bend it left and right. These guys are going to catch it and get vertical, and the Browns have struggled so badly with that. That's one of my keys to the game, is being able to make sure, like, I'm punting it out of bounds and I'm kicking it out of the end zone because I don't know if they can tackle these guys. They haven't shown they've been able to do it through, with 3 games left in the season.
So what you're saying is be on the lookout for a return touchdown.
Be on the lookout for a return touchdown. And I almost don't want to say it because, like, if you're like, those are things you don't want to come. I'm hoping I'm jinxing myself because they're really good. And you can see the effort of those frontline guys. And when you get at returners like those guys take crazy amount of pride in what they do blocking. So the Browns better bring their A game in their return teams, their coverage teams on return teams, or they will give up some big returns.
Okay, so Browns, Bills, Sunday. As always, you get to be the first one to make a pick here on the podcast before we let you go. So what's your pick for Sunday? I
don't know if the Browns are going to be competitive in this one. I hope I'm wrong. When the Bills are really good and they have something to play for. If you want to see an impressive third quarter, it's the most. Now, I've watched a ridiculous amount of film this year. I'm embarrassed almost sometimes when I say it, but that third quarter, the Bills' third quarter last week is the best third quarter of football I've seen this year. It's the best offensive defensive football I've seen this year. Just 4 straight touchdowns in a row. Just an offensive juggernaut for 4 quarters. So, obviously, I think the Browns defense will hold in there. I think the Bills get a kick return, unfortunately, and I got the Bills 28-10.
Okay, there we go. That is Lance Reisland. It gives us a scouting report every single week here on our preview podcasts, and of course joins us on Tuesdays to look back on the film. And when we're able to get him on, we have him on our post-game podcast as well. So, Lance, I appreciate the time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Welcome back to the Orange and Brown Talk podcast. Thanks to Lance for that scouting report. All right, time for us to make our picks. Ashley, you're always the one that has a score ready to go, so why don't you lead us off here?
Well, I don't have a score ready to go, but I know which team I'm picking, and I am good at talking and thinking of numbers while I talk, and I will have a score by the time I'm done talking about this game. Look, I can't really find many reasons to pick the Browns in this game. To me, their only chance is the offense not turning the ball over at all, the defense just totally dominating from start to finish and scoring. I think you need at least one defensive touchdown, but maybe two. But this Bills team right now, they're in the middle of a playoff hunt. They have multiple clinching scenarios for this weekend, and they are trying to still make a push for their division. The Patriots are ahead of them right now. So for that reason, I don't even think you can look at this game and say, oh, it's a trap game for Buffalo because they have the Eagles next week. No, I think they're going to be focused on trying to win out here and trying to lock up that AFC East titles. No, also, this is like the one team, if the weather's not so great, you don't have an advantage there either because they play in Buffalo and play in worse weather. So I'm going with the Bills. This offense is rolling for them right now. They are leading the AFC in the amount of points they average. So I'm going to go Buffalo, let's say 31 rounds. 16. Let's get a little weird.
Yeah, it's you mentioned the trap game element of it, and we talked about it with the Bears. Like, could last week have been a trap game for them? They obviously had they played the Packers, Browns, Packers, coming off a loss to the Packers, and it wasn't even close to that. I mean, they came out and up until the missed field goal, they dominated that game, and then the Browns hung around a little, but the Bears just kind of put them away quickly once it got late in the game. I could see a world where this game is maybe close early. It feels a little, I remember when the Browns and Bills played in Detroit a few years ago, and you're getting to the end of that first half, and it was a really close game. Now, of course, there were a lot of extenuating circumstances. I mean, the Bills were getting snowmobiled to the airport the day before the game to play a home game in Detroit. So it wasn't surprising that game was close at halftime, but then the Bills just kind of pulled away late. I could see a scenario where this game might be close at halftime, and then the Bills sort of take over late in the football game. But I think this is a team, to your point, Ashley, they are on a mission. They do have a playoff clinching scenario this week. If they win, there's like three scenarios where if they win and somebody else loses, they clinch the playoffs. So they're getting closer to that. Obviously fighting for the AFC East, like you said. So Josh Allen probably smells blood in the water for the division, and the fact that Patrick Mahomes isn't out there. They want to have a home playoff game, be the number one seed if that ends up being in play. So yeah, that's my long way of saying I'm picking the Bills to win this game 34-12. Just because they're the better football team and they're playing for more right now. And so I think, could I see a scenario where it's 14-7 at halftime? Sure. But I think the Bills probably pull away late. And by the way, the Bills special teams, really good. Browns special teams, not so much. So maybe we get a return touchdown even in this game by the Bills. So, Mary Kay, I'm going to go out on a limb and say we got a clean sweep coming, but maybe I'm wrong.
Well, I'll let you know at the end. But you brought up a point that I really wanted to make, and that is the fact that with Patrick Mahomes going down with a torn ACL this week, poor Josh Allen has come so painfully close so many times to making it to the Super Bowl, and he can never get past Patrick Mahomes. This is his year, but he needs every single ounce of everything he can get to do it, and they need home field advantage. They need all of that. And so it's vitally important for them to win this game. They have so much to play for. And unless the Browns can somehow dig deep and surprise everybody and come up with some things offensively that we haven't seen yet, I really think that that Josh Allen is going to go out and seize the moment and win this football game and try to keep his team on track for getting to the Super Bowl and winning it for the first time. And he needs to add to his legacy. I mean, if he wants to be, he's got Hall of Fame talent. We know that. And he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. But I mean, you want to add a Super Bowl victory in there if you can, obviously, or two. And so this is his chance. This is his year to do it. And he needs as many victories as he can possibly get. So I think they're going to come in here with their hair on fire. They know what Myles Garrett is all about. They know what they have to do in that regard. And I think they know what they're going to have to do to try to slow down or shut down Shedeur Sanders and get him rattled and get him confused. So I think the Bills are going to win this game. I do think the Browns have a chance to score some points in this game because if they can run the ball, then they can rush for a couple of touchdowns, perhaps. So we'll have to see how that goes. But I'm picking the Bills to win this one 27-17.
Right, there we go. Our Browns Bills preview. No surprise, no surprises there. We'll see. Maybe Myles Garrett and the Browns will surprise us on Sunday. I'll throw this out there. Do you guys think it happens this week? Are we talking Myles Garrett's sack record?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm kind of leaning that way too. And I think he's going to want to get it. Like getting it against Josh Allen would be, I think, add a little spice to that as well. I think there are some fans out there that maybe want to see him do it against Pittsburgh, but I think Myles would probably love to do it against another potential future Hall of Famer. So, okay, there we go. If it happens, we're going to cover it all at cleveland.com/Browns. We're going to talk about it on Orange and Brown Talk, which make sure you're subscribed on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. YouTube is Cleveland Browns on cleveland.com as well. And if you're not a football insider, it's cleveland.com/Browns, the blue banner at the top of the page. You heard from Lance last segment. You also just heard from Mary Kay and Ashley. I'm Dan. Thanks for listening, everybody.